sometimes, but obviously we're reacting to Celtic's Champions League exit, it turns out, against Kairat Almaty. I don't even know where to start, Swanee, with that. I really don't. I mean, just crazy that we're even having to talk about this from Celtic's perspective.
Well, here's the place to start. No one's really shocked.
Aye, that's fair.
That doesn't sum up the situation that Celtic got themselves into ahead of these qualifiers. Nothing does.
Aye.
Because, I mean, we sat in that Hotline Live studio with Chris Sutton. We were doing the Record Celtic podcast when the day the draw came out.
Aye.
And I don't think Celtic had a hand-picked a better draw. And even then, they hadn't done their business that they should have done in the transfer window. But they were given what you would class as a favourable tie. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Kairat Almaty, but they were average at best. They worked hard, and they were a very modest team. I've
got to be honest, Swanee, right? And this might come back to haunt me. I think they will lose every game in the Champions League.
Listen, absolutely. And I've been to enough Celtic Champions League qualifiers to see some of the teams that they've played. You know, go right back to the start to Croatia, Zagreb, through Malmö's, you know, through teams that they've played against that have been good teams and have knocked them out. And it's been difficult for Celtic. But, you know, they were playing sides that you should say, okay, they maybe shouldn't have lost to them. But there were 50, 60, 40 games. Celtic should have been winning that all day long. And as you say, where do you start? I mean, the words ambition have been used by the manager. The word that springs to mind for me is conviction. All the way through. No conviction from the top in terms of getting the bodies in. No conviction in the two performances. Even in the penalty shootout, no conviction in the penalties that would be taken, really. I mean, just a dreadful night for Celtic.
We're going to. We've got plenty of comments coming in right now on tonight's result. If you want to get involved in the conversation, please do so, and we'll read through them. A few already controversial ones here, Swanee, that I'll get your take on. Mark says, time for Rodgers to go. His pedestrian tactics are woeful. His decision not to start with our penalty taker awful. But starting with either is unforgivable. I think he means in the shootout, starting with either. This one as well comes from William Sloan, who says, now it's not Lawwell or Nicholson's fault for being unable to score 3 from 5 penalties. But Davey says, this is on the board, period. How do you see that, Swan? I mean, that's going to be the talk now over the next few days, certainly.
Well, another word that Brendan Rodgers has used is a collective, and it is a collective. Everybody's got to take their share on this. You know, Brendan Rodgers made it clear he needed players. Players weren't brought to the club in time for the qualifiers, or not enough players in the right positions were brought to the club for the qualifiers in time. So that's his. Brendan Rodgers will take it upon himself. He said before the game at the press conference in Almaty, no excuses. He's the man responsible for putting the team out, setting the team up. They couldn't score in 2 games against Kairat. Now, again, that comes back to, you can argue probably quite rightly, that comes back to the board. If you lose your number one striker in January and he's still not replaced, and you lose your number one wide attacking threat when your other one's injured, you don't lose him. You choose to sell him at the time when he went, and you don't replace him. And then you don't score a goal in either of the 2 legs plus extra time. Well, that tells its own story, doesn't it?
They've taken a £40 million gamble, and it's not paid off. And I just, like, I'm talking off air, and our producer Paul was saying to us that, you know, Celtic fans will be furious. And I think a lot of them will just be bewildered. Like, why has this happened? The money's there. It's not like it's Mike Nicholson's money or Peter Lawwell's money. The money's there. There's players out there. I don't understand it. I really don't understand why it's came to this.
No, and listen, if you're looking for an answer off me, I'm the same as everybody else. I can't work out either. I know how the transfer window works. We all know how the transfer window works. Deals can be difficult to get done. We know all of that. But Celtic had enough time to get deals done. There's no doubt about that. They must have been able to get players in. Yeah. Must have been. And for whatever reason, it's been held up. And I'm sure there'll be individual ones. You know, clubs are hanging on, selling clubs and trying to get more money and that kind of thing. But then there's an announcement. There's going to be an announcement of 2 players tomorrow that looks like they kind of been done today. You know, why are they not done 2 weeks ago?
I know.
These boys would have made a difference, but it almost looked like the squad just looked in these 2 games like it's just been crying out for an injection of a bit of freshness.
Yeah.
More than anything else. Rather than, you know, I'm not just saying putting players in for the sake of putting players in, but it just looked as though they needed a bit of help. And it was just a staleness about the 2 performances. pedestrian, lethargic, and pretty stale. There was a flurry in extra time when the realisation that the sceptre of penalties was looming, and suddenly Celtic managed to get. And to be fair, Kairat Almaty had clearly set their sights on penalties and dropped deeper and deeper into the game, which enabled Celtic to get further up the pitch. But there was enough to say about Celtic later in the game. Where was it from the start of the first leg? Where was it from the start of the second leg? So that one's on the manager and the players.
Yeah. What about
I know the criticisms of the board, but that Celtic squad is still good enough to be dealing with Kairat Almaty.
Yeah,
surely.
I'd agree with that. Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. Stephen in the comments says Celtic, as a fan base, needed this. The Celtic board have got away with it 3 years running due to automatic qualification. Is that a point, Swanee, that maybe this will spark a rethink in Celtic's recruitment? I mean, I don't think it will, but
because it hasn't. It's never sparked it before.
Yeah.
Well, it hasn't. I mean,
you're right.
Celtic have spent money. No one's arguing with that. Celtic have paid out big money and they've signed players, but it's always been the issue. Has always been the timing. It's always, even last year it was late in the window, but they didn't have the qualifier to worry about. You just thought on this occasion, okay, especially when Nicholas Kuhn left. That's the big one for me. When Nicholas Kuhn left, I think we spoke to Brendan. I think it might have been July the 4th, if I've got that right, was the day that it all came out. Because I've got that date in my head because I was at Hampden for Queen's Park Celtic. I'm sure it was July the 4th. And that was the day when it was more or less confirmed he was going. It's 2 months ago.
Yeah.
But you thought when he went, well, Celtic must have a winger lined up here. They must have. Because you're not allowing Nicholas Kuhn to leave unless there's somebody lined up. He might not have been coming in the next day, but you're pretty confident he's going to be coming in for the qualifiers, especially when you know that Jota is going to be sidelined. It defies logic to me.
Yeah. I mean, George in the comment says the board think it's their money. We hear this crap out season after season. It's now time for Celtic fans to stop giving them money, stop buying merchandise and anything else they don't need to buy. Starve them of money. I really hope they don't sell out. The Europa League is going to hit them hard. Sorry, you get lost a bit there, George, but I think the point is well taken. Look, they're into the Europa League now, Celtic, and with my glass half full, Swanee, it's a competition that Rangers went deep in. Surely Celtic can as well.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when the dust settles on this, it's, the Europa League for Celtic is a competition they can do something in. And if you looked at Rangers Champions League games, Rangers Europa League games last season, they were every bit as glamorous some of them as Celtic's Europa League, Champions League ties. Rangers were playing Tottenham and Manchester United when Celtic were playing Slovan, Bratislava and Young Boys. So, in a couple of the games. So, there is a bit of glamour there. That's fine. And from a player's point of view, they're still going to get to play at a decent level and it's a competition that they might do well in. But that's not the point.
Yeah.
That wasn't the bar. That's not the bar that was set. The bar was set by the club. Celtic continually say they're a Champions League club. Well, they didn't go about staying in the Champions League the right way, and now they're not in it.
Aye. Well, William Sloan in the comments says, you're correct, Swanee. Two different stories. Hammer the board for lack of ambition, but the manager had more than enough at his disposal to win, and he didn't. John says, go back further, Swanee. Celtic knew Kyogo wanted to leave before this time last season, and he's still not been replaced.
That's staggering to me. That's absolutely staggering. I don't know what the disconnect is or what the issue is. I don't know if the manager wants a certain player and it's maybe out with the bounds of what the club want to go to. I don't know. But there surely has to have been strike. I mean, as far as we know, but we're still no. There's how many days to the window closes? Still no striker in. It's like that is unfathomable to me. When we sat at Villa Park, because I think Kyogo left after the Young Boys game.
He did. Yeah.
Straight after that, and the following week at Villa Park, when Brendan Rodgers confirmed that Kieran Tierney's pre-contract was done, he said he wanted a striker and needed a new striker in, and that was for that window. We're less than a week to go in the next window. There still isn't one in the door.
Mm-hmm.
None of it makes sense. I do apologise if anybody's come on to this hoping for answers, because I don't have any. I'm the same as everybody else.
I know.
I just cannot work the majority of this stuff out.